Yo, alright guys, Delzinski here, and yes, I'm back for another TNA Impact review, and this time we are talking about TNA Impact Wrestling from the 12th of January 2016. But before we do that, I'd like to touch on the ONO, yes, the One Night Only pay-per-view that TNA had just a few days ago. Now, this came really quickly off the heels of their Pop debut, and I feel that was a massive problem for them because it didn't really give us any sort of chance to have any build to this One Night Only pay-per-view. Yes, it's called One Night Only, so maybe we shouldn't care that there was not a decent build, and maybe we shouldn't care that there was no outcome from the matches, but I tend to care about those things because I feel that that's what gets me invested to go and buy a pay-per-view, is to know that there'll be outcomes of it and that it will continue in storyline. And I didn't feel that the One Night Only pay-per-view did any of that. So I felt that TNA rushed it. They wanted to get something out quite quickly after their return. And it didn't work. I would have preferred that they would have invested more time in the very first episode back on Pop. But they didn't. They had this One Night Only. It was okay. It had fair few good matches on it. Particularly, I like the X Division match. Mandrews, hate the name, but he's a great competitor. He loves flying around the ring. I think he could be a very good guy to invest your time in and have him carry the X Division forward. But overall, this was more like a spot fest and a special stipulation sort of pay-per-view. As it says, One Night Only, and it just doesn't really add anything to the product. We had a Monsters Ball. Good God, we've seen enough of them between Grado and Abyss. I love Grado. It's a shame you can't have the Madonna theme, because having the theme that he's got on TNA absolutely sucks. I mean, it takes all the fun out of Grado, that crappy theme that he's got. But, Monsters Balls are a bit meh. And that's what it all kind of culminated in. We had Beer Money there, they were making their return, but the underlining factor is nothing came out of One Night Only, and it was reiterated in the Impact episode this week, because Miracle Mike Bennett actually said that I'm making my debut next week in the ring, and I'm thinking to myself, hold on a minute, did I forget something here? He had a match against Robbie E at One Night Only. Have we forgot that? And that's what kind of makes me think, logic, TNA, come on, do these matter or not? And the pay-per-view structure of TNA definitely needs to be reviewed. I'd rather them sack off these One Night Onlys and just focus on a proper pay-per-view structure, even if it was just 4 pay-per-views a year, but have some seriously good hype to each and every one of these pay-per-views. That's what I need. I need to feel invested in terms of storyline. They need to get this shit in order with pay-per-view production and building and making sure you go and buy it and don't give things away for free. And on TNA Impact, because that's kind of brought me nicely into it, they gave a lot away for free. And you're going to find out what I mean right now. So let's talk about TNA Impact this week. It was, it was an interesting Impact. It was mostly built around Matt Hardy's frustrations with the fact that he'd been outdone by Ethan Carter on numerous occasions now, and he's struggling to handle it. And his family were in attendance, his wife, his child, and we saw him on a new segment with Mr. Anderson, which I'll touch on briefly a little bit later. But overall, that's what the episode was about. It's about him and EC3 and Matt's struggle to kind of, he's getting to a point where it's becoming all or nothing for him. And, he wants to take that risk because he really is desperate for the World Heavyweight Championship. Now, EC3 came out and started the night. He cut a promo. He was interrupted by Jeff Hardy. Jeff Hardy came out and announced that he's cleared to wrestle. So we've got both Hardys in the mix in the world title picture now. EC3 obviously, belittled Jeff over, the last few months with the fact that he was his personal assistant and all that shizzle. Interestingly enough, between this, they teased as well that potentially Tyrus could turn on EC3 at some point, which I found strange. I mean, I really like the chemistry between Tyrus and EC3, so I don't want to see that go wrong. I think Tyrus has got a world title shot at some point. I think he won something, when TNA was, in obscurity, something went down and he's got an opportunity, but he's not going to do it because he's loyal to EC3. But they tease potentially that he could turn his back on him, and EC3 keeps belittling him. So will he finally have enough and turn on Ethan Carter? We'll have to wait and see. But But Jeff came out. He's cleared to wrestle. They teased potentially we were going to see EC3 versus Jeff. They didn't. What was up with Jeff Hardy's face paint? It was all like, meh. I don't know what was going on there. He kept smearing it and making it worse. Is that the new thing? I don't know. Needs to get some tips from Sting with that face paint. That's for sure. But you know, it was a good segment to start. I quite enjoyed it. And even the ridiculous bit that happened at the end where they introduced this guy called Shinron, who was like a nobody, no one had heard of him. Ethan Carter pulling it out the bag, you know, bringing out someone to face Jeff Hardy so he could duck out and not defend his world title. This guy called Shinron, the master of motion, and all he kind of did was flip his way around the ring and then lose to Jeff Hardy. But it was entertaining. Ethan Carter performing or giving Shinron a theme was kind of epic. It was fun. I enjoyed it. And it did have a purpose. It got the crowd going, seeing Jeff Hardy in the ring. Ethan Carter rattled the crowd by winding them up. That was a good way to start. And I think Jeff Hardy is so important to TNA as a babyface. They really have no one else like him who can get anything from the crowd, to be honest with you. Beer Money are even struggling with it. But yeah, it was a decent start. And I'm going to explain the Matt Hardy stuff first before we touch on anything else on this review. So as the evening unfolded, obviously we knew that Jeff was back, but Matt was still struggling to come to terms with things. And Matt, you know, throughout the evening had this, he had this interview with Mr. Anderson. Mr. Anderson had this new segment called Ha. Huh. Huh? Huh. Huh. Yeah, it's called Huh. And Mr. Anderson was just being a typical asshole like he is. I'm not sure if I like the segment or not. It feels weird. That's the only way it can be described. Mr. Anderson looks like a homeless person. He comes out, he looks like he's half cut. You know, it's weird. And then he comes out and he just kind of winds up. It's a lot like the highlight reel that Y2J has or Miz TV, and it just feels awkward, and that's the best word to describe it. Anyway, Matt Hardy brings out his family onto this show, making things even more awkward. I hate family segments. I mean, oh god, you have your wife and your kid out there, and then you're sitting there. It's awkward as fuck, basically. But anyway, they come out there, and you know, Mr. Anderson's asking him, trying to push his buttons a little bit. I don't know if Mr. Anderson's meant to be a heel here, but he's just stirring the pot. But he pushes his buttons and keeps saying to him, you know, don't you feel like you choked a little bit against EC3? You know, you keep choking, and you know, this is just getting on Matt Hardy's nerves, and it culminates to Matt basically having enough, walks out of Huh, and that's the end of Huh for this week. And I think it's going to be a regular thing, but I'm not sold on it yet. We'll see. But anyway, this Huh segment was over, and it culminated in Matt coming out later to interrupt EC3 and say that, you know, he's sick and tired of this. He wants to raise the stakes a little bit, and the way that he's going to do it is he's going to put his career on the line for the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. If he wins, he gets the gold. If he loses, he's gone from TNA forever. And that was quite good. You know, that was decent build. Until they told me when it was going to be. Because it's freaking next week. And, you know, big issue here, TNA. Big freaking issue. If it's next week, why bother? Because you should be building this. It's a big moment. Matt Hardy could leave the company. I'm expecting him to leave the company because, you know, in all honesty, why would he do this otherwise? Is his contract up? Probably. Is he going to go? Most likely, you know. And the issue here is you should have got that to your pay-per-view. Because if you get that to your pay-per-view, everyone's invested. They want to see if Matt Hardy can conquer or if he's going to walk away. And instead, you're giving it away for free. And this is the problem with the pay-per-view structure that TNA have got. Because they don't build things to pay-per-views. They give them away because they want to keep the viewership going. Well, the best way to keep the viewership going is to keep the steady storyline up to the pay-per-view. So, very annoying indeed. You put some effort in. It feels rushed. It feels like you're trying to push this through, maybe to move on to something else with Jeff. But nevertheless, take your time with it. Slow builds are better builds. So that was the bulk of TNA this week, was all around building to Matt Hardy making this massive announcement, and yet we're getting it next week for free. And I don't mind getting it for free, but if I'm a business person and I'm thinking, where do I want people to tune into? I want them to buy my effing pay-per-view. And TNA at the moment don't get that concept. Build your pay-per-views for big things that are coming up. Don't give them away for free, these matches. So anyway, that was the bulk of Impact in terms of what was going down. Now, in between that, we had the Beer Bash with Beer Money. And I have to say, Beer Money, although I was hyped for them to make their return, it's lost a little bit of it. It's lost a little bit of its gold, its magic. It really, really has. It's not as exciting as what it used to be. Felt a little bit DX, when DX reunited, the way that they were going for like the cheap jokes. The segment was all about them both saying sorry for attacking each other over the years, smashing beer bottles over their heads, super kicking the teeth down each other's throats, whatnot, yah. It was entertaining. It's hard to entertain such a small crowd. They just useless with their stupid little fucking pop signs. That's not good. Have TNA signs, promote that, not the network. But it was a fun little segment, the Beer Bash, and it led to the fact that Eric Young came out, and he came out with Bram. God, they're odd. They're an odd couple, and Bram's still stuck in 2006, but they came out, culminating into a match which eventually saw Bobby Roode lose his global, well, I think it used to be called that, and now it's had so many names I kind of forget, but his King of the Mountain Championship. He lost that King of the Mountain Championship, and EY is that new King of the Mountain champion, which obviously means that Beer Money are now going to focus on the tag team division, and I'm hoping that we're going to get Beer Money versus the Wolves. And what I'd like TNA to do in the meantime is move around and start recruiting lots of tag teams to build up their tag team division one more time, because their tag team division is lacklustered. It's a lot like their knockouts division. There's not a lot to it, and it brings me nicely into the knockouts, because if Beer Money can get the tag team division going again, we certainly need someone to get the knockouts division going again, because all it seems to be every week is Beautiful People versus the Dollhouse. Beautiful People versus the Dollhouse. Is there anything else to it? It doesn't feel like it. And this week, again, it was like they went and, hit the extreme button for no reason. Kendo sticks were being brought out by the girls. Chairs were being brought out. Kong's involved. And it's fine. Again, I found it entertaining. Rebel can't wrestle for shit, but I established that at One Night Only as well. I like the fact that now the Dollhouse have got Kong. Quite a lot of botches though whenever these girls are wrestling at the moment, and TNA used to pride themselves on having a fantastic women's division, and it's really not as good as what it should be. But bringing out those weapons again, for me, wasn't necessary. Could have just kept that to the side, and that could be used at a pay-per-view. You could have them build to some sort of Extreme Rules match between the knockouts. That would be interesting or good. And again, it's going to the pay-per-view. Make sure you want to buy the pay-per-view, see something different. But instead, they gave it away for free. They had trash cans in the ring, I think, chairs, and there was a lot of botches. They couldn't even put the chair in the corner. It's annoying. They need to work harder, these girls. And I'm not knocking, the work ethic. There's just got to be a bit more chemistry. And I don't know, maybe they're frustrated and bored of working together, because it does need a few fresh faces in there. And we need more focus on the champion. Gail Kim's just kind of sitting there and watching this all pass by. The Beautiful People aren't the Beautiful People really anymore. Madison Rayne doesn't even match Velvet Sky. I don't like it. I preferred Velvet when she was on her own. It was much better that way. The Dollhouse, definitely, please, someone just tell Terran Terrell to just wait on God for a little while, you know? It's fine. I'll let you off. We need you back. Please. But no more Terran Terrell. Yeah. So, you know, the Knockouts division needs a lot of work doing to it. The Extreme stuff was kind of good. They tried to take it in a different way. But again, if you'd introduced it properly, you would have built that towards maybe the six-woman tag team sort of match at a pay-per-view instead of just having this all-out brawl. And TNA loves a brawl because we get it all the time. Now, moving on to the final part of my Impact review, because I like to focus on the main points of the show. Last, but by no means not least, we have the main event with Drew Galloway and Kurt Angle. And it was a great match. I enjoyed it. But big issue here. This is Kurt Angle's farewell tour. I thought that this should be the match to end it. I don't know who else Kurt Angle's going to face. But this, for me, should have been his final match for the farewell, because Drew Galloway is fantastic. And again, why was it on Impact? Again, I am stuck on this. Pay-per-views are not important to TNA. They could have built that fantastically, how Drew Galloway over these next few weeks could have been beating people left, right and centre, and then gone to Kurt and said, look, I want to be your last opponent. Take me on. It will be fantastic. And we have it at maybe Lockdown at Wembley or something like that. Something amazing. And we didn't get any of that. It's too... Everything's in a rush with TNA. They want to get it done quickly. They want to get the cheap pop. There's not really much of a cheap pop when you don't have much of a crowd there. You know, build to the pay-per-view. Get the TV audience invested in the product again. And that's the trouble. They put on decent matches, but the substance and the storytelling behind it is all rushed at the moment. You know, I know you want to make this, I know you want to make pop feel like it's special and you're pulling all the stops out. But I don't think you're coming off that way. I think you're rushing it and people are thinking, why are you not building to pay-per-views? You don't have to, go all in. And I don't even feel like they're going all in, but they're kind of trying to. So yeah, I mean, it was a good way to finish. It was a decent match, but it just unfortunately... it wasn't the right time or the right place for this match, and that's my point of view. So if TNA are going to learn anything this week from Impact, they need to get their shit together as far as pay-per-views. They need to stop giving stuff away for free. Would this week be Delzinski approved? Meh, not really. Elements maybe, but not all of it. So that's my view this week, and I will be Delzinski approving episodes every single week. Now, just some funny bits to touch on before I sign out. On the One Night Only pay-per-view, the Pope nearly said WWE, that he works for the WWE. What the fuck, mate? What the fuck? How long you been at TNA for now? It's just stupid. Josh Matthews had to cut in and say, you don't work there anymore, Pope. Just remember that. And Pope's just like, puppy pimping and all that kind of stuff. Souffles, Grado. Just because you're acting like a pimp doesn't mean you can't speak. What? Anyway, so, that's just weird. Obviously, the commentary team has a lot to be desired. And last, but by no means not least, that Billy Corgan intro is not getting any better. It's so dull. So the way that I see it is it just goes... Bear in mind, it's got to get you hyped for the show. Are you excited by that? Have I, got you hyped? No. No, Billy. No. So that needs to change. Enough said. I'll probably go on it back each and every week, but I'm telling you now, stop with that shitty intro. And they got the dubstep stuff going on. I mean, meow. I don't even know why I did that, but I just find it funny. Anyway, so guys, let me know what you think of this week's TNA Impact. Did you enjoy it? What were your highlights of it? Do you think they're just kind of pushing it too much. They're trying to go for too much too soon. What did you think of Was it or was it meh? And Billy Corgan intro, do you like it? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Are you bored by it? I'm bored. I'm going to GTS myself in a minute. And obviously the Matt Hardy storyline is the bulk of the episode. Was it good? Do you think that they should have saved this for a pay-per-view? I do. So all that's left to be said is please rate, comment and subscribe. This is Delzinski for another TNA Impact Wrestling review. Signing out.